Hi, yes, Jackie here with the LGFA, and we're on a preview show looking ahead to the TG4 All-Ireland Senior Championship semi-finals at Croke Park on Saturday. It's Mayo against Kerry at 2 o'clock, followed by Meath against Donegal at 4 o'clock. I'm in the company of Caoimhe Marley Morgan from Armagh, top left-hand side of my screen. Race score, Michelle Ryan from Waterford is top right-hand side. She's off to the races today. Councillor Emma Murphy, the Mayor of South Dublin, bottom left, and Nadine Doherty, former Donegal star, is on the bottom right-hand side of my screen. So, look, there's only one place to start, lads. I'm going to throw in the ball, and you can take it and run with it. Last Saturday, if we have Super Saturday coming up at Croke Park this weekend with the semi-finals, well, I think last weekend was Seismic Saturday, or call it whatever you want. It was unbelievable drama. Michelle, pick the bones out of it. I mean, incredible stuff.
Well, I think I texted you on Saturday saying I picked a good week to be on holidays to be doing predictions. So I was pretty happy with that. It was absolutely incredible. I don't think anyone could have or would have predicted the results that came about at the weekend. And I think just even having attended so many matches at this stage and seeing most of the teams, I just didn't foresee the performances that came from the likes of Mayo, from Donegal, and even from Galway. And I know Galway lost, but I mean, to put it up to me the way that they did, and for it have to be won by a last gasp winner from Emma Duggan with 15 seconds to go, I mean, that just topped off the whole weekend. But it's, I suppose, two things stick out to me is that, first of all, the gap, or the perceived gap that we've talked about in years at the top, has definitely shortened. And what Meath did last year has, and we thought that it would, but it definitely has given other teams belief and motivation going forward, and the belief that as well that, you know, one bad game isn't a bad season, and that things can be changed and turned around very quickly. So that's definitely one thing. But I suppose as well as that, I mean, the displays of football and the scoring fest that was on to be seen in all games was quite remarkable. It was really a testament to, I suppose, attacking football in a lot of the games that I saw anyway. And I think everybody that's there deserves to be there. And the exciting thing now is, with Dublin and Cork gone, and even though the All-Ireland champions are still in the fray, that there's no doubt that the other three teams are going to think that they have a potential of achieving All-Ireland glory. And that's what's exciting for us, I suppose, watching in.
Absolutely. Caoimhe Marley Morgan, how's everybody in Armagh? Because I suppose, picking up on Michelle's point there, everybody in that last four now will have a chance and feel they'll have a genuine chance of winning this competition. If Armagh were there, they'd feel the very same.
Yeah, I think the resounding feeling in Armagh is the girls are quite sick at the minute about this. I said I thought it was going to be the game of the weekend. I was wrong. You know, they were all games of the weekend. But it was a really close contest between Kerry and Armagh. It kind of matched up the way that we thought it would. You know, I mean, Louise, a scoring fest of 2-6 was, you know, really, really good. I suppose the idea of putting Lauren McConville on Louise, I thought maybe a risk that would pay off, but, you know, she had kind of embedded herself at centre half back after having been a forward. So maybe it wasn't the right call. Maybe I think that should have been changed. Kerry's midfield and their physicality was just something to behold. You know, Armagh missed vital goal chances at times that were really important. And we talked about, you know, being clinical in all of your games. And I think that might have come back to bite them a little bit. But as Michelle had said, you know, everyone feels that the title is up for grabs, and Armagh, I suppose, would have felt that as well, having watched Donegal Dublin, and Armagh would have known that. You know, I'm sure they were thinking, oh gosh, you know, this is really, really open for anyone. And it's very disappointing, because I believe Armagh have the quality, and, you know, they should be pushing on, and they're still in the second division. Yes, they've won an Ulster, but I suppose if you ask Maxi Curran, you know, where he'd prefer to be now, would he want an Ulster Championship or to be contesting in the All-Ireland series with the possibility of an All-Ireland final, he'd say that's what he would want. So I don't know, it's really disappointing for Armagh. It's going to be very hard to pick yourselves up. I know our girls are very disappointed. I believe they have so much potential, as I keep saying, but it's just trying to break through that quarter-final barrier, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. So, yeah, disappointment in Armagh, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, I feel the very same about Armagh. I think there's a lot of talent in that squad, and there is potentially an All-Ireland in them, but again, they'll have to wait another year, as the old saying goes. Emma, what about the Dubs? Another big gun to fall.
Yeah, and I was actually I was out in Bray Emmets with Jerome doing the commentary in Waterford Monaghan, and we phone just below us, couldn't believe what wasn't happening kind of in front of us either. You're trying to focus on the Waterford Monaghan match, and it was, Donegal just got it right. Donegal got their matchups right. They were well prepared. They were hungry. They had nullified the attacking threat from Dublin. And they were patient, and there was a level of patience there from Donegal that you don't see from a lot of teams against the Dublins and the Meads. And Donegal were patient, and when they attacked, they were clinical. And if you're going to defend the way Donegal did, you need to get your attacking options right, which they did. And their full forward line in particular, which was phenomenal. Geraldine McLaughlin was, she was excellent. They knew what their job was. They got through Saturday doing their job, and they got the right reward for it. And it forced Dublin to be desperate, and it forced Dublin to kind of abandon, what their kind of natural playing, strategy, and to try and force goals. And they forced a very, very late goal, which put a gloss on the score, really. But Donegal were full value for their win, and off to Croke Park they go on Saturday.
Absolutely. Nadine, did you get a few texts or calls during the week? I mean, in fairness to you, you did say there's always a game in Donegal, and by God, there was a game in them.
There is, but Jackie, I really didn't think they had it in them. What Cahill said there about the Ulster final, I do remember saying at the time, I was doing comms on BBC, that for Donegal this year, an Ulster final would be a bonus. But I thought that defeat did them a huge amount of harm. Looking back at their performances against Waterford, against Cork. But I always say it, if there's any team to turn over Dublin and to have that chance to turn over Dublin, it is Donegal. And look, as Emma said, they got it right. I think Dublin got it wrong in a lot of ways. They sacrificed Sinead Goldrick's game to try and tame Niamh McLaughlin, and it really backfired. Okay, Niamh does need one-to-one marking, but if you look at Niamh's game, she's not that probing centre forward who's going to run at you. Niamh is going to flitter out around the midfield. She's going to drop deep. She's going to give and go. There was at one point, Goldie could have got a hand on somebody, but she actually just ran past him. She completely ignored where the ball was and followed Niamh McLaughlin. So Niamh was so clever. She basically ran around for the day and just took Goldie out of it. So I thought, missing Goldie in that defence absolutely killed Dublin, killed them. And Donegal seemed to stretch them so far. It looked like the pitch was twice the size of what a pitch is. And then Donegal's kicking ability, that's never, ever been in doubt. The crossfield passes, look, Yvonne and Karen, their fielding is unbelievable. And while Geraldine, when she was inside, she was very dangerous. Again, we're Dublin naive to the fact that Geraldine has come out around the middle this year. All the Ulster games, Geraldine was coming out around that midfield, dinking balls in, and it was like Dublin didn't expect it. I know Dublin were very frustrated with the referee, and Donegal got a few wee calls that they wouldn't have gotten in other times, but when you're not the All-Ireland champions, you don't really get that rub of the green anymore, and I think Dublin really struggled with that, and their big performers didn't perform. It was in part that Donegal didn't let them perform, but they were just blown away. They were blown away by that pace, and all I hope now is that Donegal can back that up again, because it is going to take another 70 minutes of that and more to get over Meath. Meath are favourites now. They have to be. I know the thing is wide open, but they're All-Ireland champions. They haven't lost in the championship yet this year. Okay, they lost the Leinster final to Dublin, but in the actual championship, they're undefeated. They're massive favourites, so Donegal need to go again. But I've said this too before, Donegal are set up to beat Meath and Dublin. And that's why they struggle with the Waterfords, the Corks, Armagh times, because they're not set up to counteract lesser systems. They are solely focused on Dublin and Meath and that system. So I'm kind of glad they got Meath, to be honest, in the semi-final. I think it's more of a challenge for them, and the bigger the challenge for this team, the bigger the performance it seems to be. So delighted. Never ever, as I texted you on Saturday, I have never been so happy to have been so wrong. Thrilled with myself.
I'll tell you, no, you summed it up well, Nadine. Michelle, Emma touched on the relegation match, which I think was of enormous consequence as well. And I suppose when you think about teams that will be looking to bridge a gap, I mean, very, very shrewd operator in Pat Sullivan, and having stayed up now, he'll be looking to kick on, if I presume or hope he's going to stay on, Michelle, but he'll be looking to kick on in 2023, I'd imagine.
Absolutely, Jackie, and I hope he does stay on as well, because with Pat, he always has plans in place, and there's no doubt that he's already thinking, I would hope, to what could come next year, because there are so many good positives to be taken out of this year. I know, I suppose, the relegation match against Monaghan, look, we all know, I think Monaghan have been struggling the last while. To be honest, even looking at their team, there were very few, I suppose, faces and names that I would even be that acquainted with. And it just goes to show that Monaghan are probably just going through that patch where, you know, a new crew and a new crop is coming up. And I think I can say it because I've experienced it, and it's not easy for teams to hear that, you know, sometimes the clinging on at the coattails of everybody in the senior, you can only last for so long. It's very demoralizing. It's tough to keep coming back year after year. It's tough to see, you know, all the efforts that you're putting in, what you're actually really getting out of it. And going down, while it's tough to take at the time, it really can sometimes be the best thing that happens to you. And you need to actually build up momentum. You need to start winning games. And you need, for that to happen, you need games to be competitive. And for the likes of, I suppose, Westmeath, who are kind of yo-yoing up and down now with the last while, now Monaghan going down, that is an opportunity, a massive opportunity for them once they get over the actual fact of being, I suppose, relegated. But it really is a massive opportunity for them, and for them to use it as best they can as a building process. Because I suppose for Westmeath are going to have to look at it as well and see what's actually not happening here. Why is it that we are up and down? Maybe you have to break things a little bit more to actually build them up a little bit better, and that's maybe what will happen. But there's no doubt in Waterford that they're very happy that, you know, to still be safe in senior, because I do feel honestly that they are very competitive in the grades, and there is more to come from them, and we've seen signs of that. And to be honest, they have been the team that pushed Donegal very hard this year. Now Donegal are in an All-Ireland semi-final, and that's no doubt the platform I suppose Pat is going to be looking forward to coming into next year.
Absolutely summed it up well, Michelle. Caoimhe, you're heading to Croke Park.
Yes.
So
yeah, delighted.
It's an Ulster derby on the 31st of July in the junior championship. So congrats to Fermanagh. Was it as comfortable maybe as the scoreline suggests, Caoimhe, or was it a more intense battle?
Yeah, well, on the sideline, I never felt it was comfortable. Look, we know Limerick quite well, having played them in the semi-final of the league. I think, and I suppose it's key what a lot of the girls are saying here about a lot of teams, we got our matchups right. Okay, we started tentatively. Limerick took the lead and we're kind of pushing on, but I kind of felt that we still had it in us. And we came back and we were 3 up at half time, and we had a good flurry of goals, but you know, it was nip and tuck for, you know, a good lot of time. You know, they got a goal, we came back and got a goal. But when we got on top, which is what kind of impressed me the most, was that we were able to stay there then and push on. And in games beforehand, you know, in the Ulster final against Antrim, you know, we weren't able to do that. So I think we showed character. It was an unbelievably hot day. Oh my goodness. You know how those girls performed. It was crazy, but you know, they stuck to the game plan. And you know, I suppose we're all saying these kind of things now. You know, if you can get a group of players that'll follow you and stick to the game plan and, you know, do what they're asked for the sake of the team, and that's what our girls did. And I'm so happy that they got over the line, because, you know, Fermanagh have had a lot of adjusting to do since the start of the year. I mean, they had a lot of players that's kind of walked away for one reason or another. We have 8 starting players that didn't come back. And that was a massive blow for the start of the campaign. But the girls got their head down since November. And I mean, you know, they thoroughly deserve to be in this position. And I'm just really, really happy for them. Yeah.
Congrats. It's a great achievement, Caoimhe, and we look forward to the final with interest. Emma, unfortunately, from your point of view and Caroline's, Roscommon won't be there. It'll be Wexford against Laois. Your thoughts on those 2 semi-finals, Emma? You obviously were keeping more than a close eye on proceedings. Yeah,
it was an interesting Sunday, I suppose. Roscommon didn't get out of first gear. You know, Wexford were brilliant. They got it right. They got their matchups right. They were strong and powerful throughout the pitch. They ran at Roscommon. They got a brilliant start. and they kind of never really looked back. Really forced kind of Roscommon to be forcing the game, forcing the play. But Aisling Murphy in a full forward was just a phenomenal. She was phenomenal. Like four goals from play is just, you know, absolutely fantastic. Roscommon kind of got back into it. They the penalty decision kind of go against them. But once kind of Wexford got that lead, they didn't look back, and it's going to be an interesting final against Laois. When I jumped into the car to come back to Dublin, and I saw that there was extra time in the Laois-Cllr match, and there was 7 points between them when I got into the car, and it was an extra time when I got back. And you know, Cllr, fair play to Cllr, they got themselves back into it, they clawed themselves back into it, and they gave Laois an absolute rattle. But again, it's the final is going to be two teams that are playing attacking football. I love watching Laois. I think they're a fantastic side. I think they're everything that's positive about the intermediate championship, and I think what Michelle has said about the intermediate championship with, you know, teams like Monaghan going down, I actually think Monaghan could thrive in that environment. You know, the lack of kind of not the defensive strategy is there, but it's not as prominent, and it tends to be an awful lot of free flowing, attacking, exciting football. And I think Monaghan could actually, really, really thrive and work in that environment and rebuild. I mean, they've an excellent minor team coming through there. So the intermediate championship next year is going to be really, really interesting. It's whether or not it's Laois or Wexford there. I was delighted for Lizzie Kent. She was, you know, absolutely, you know, delighted on the line as she would be. Really tough conditions for the girls all round in the Wexford Roscommon game, as every game was on Sunday with the heat. You know, it was really, really warm in Cretty Yard, and it was an end-to-end game, and it wasn't one for the defences either. It was it was just end-to-end. So it's going to be an attacking final. For Laois, I suppose, for the intermediate sides and for the junior sides as well. Caoimhe, well done to Caoimhe and Fermanagh, and they're a great example of how you can actually rebuild within a year if you've lost players. And I think at intermediate level and junior level, you tend to lose panels. But they're in, you know, the rebuilding side of it is going to be really, really interesting as well. So yeah, it's going to make for an interesting final. I wouldn't like to call that one. It's going to be high scoring. So it's going to be really, really high scoring.
And Emma, with the teams that haven't progressed to a final in the intermediate, and you consider the quality of them, along with the quality of the teams that have come back down to senior, would you agree that this makes this final even more important for Laois and Wexford, that they'll probably feel we need to win this because there's no guarantee we'll be back here next year?
Yeah, and you've seen it's a roundabout. I mean, Roscommon have been in 3 finals in 4 years, or 3 semi-finals in 4 years, just have never made it to Croke Park. Wexford are in a final last year and haven't advanced to senior. Laois have been thereabouts for the last few years. Cllr, yeah, you just because of the way the groups go, if you don't actually get over the line this time, you could actually end up staying there. And you've seen that with, you know, with Westmeath and the yo-yo. And you know, one thing I will say about Westmeath is, I mean, there was a mass exodus out of Westmeath last year. Michael Finneran has had to do a huge rebuilding job there. Huge rebuilding job, and it was such a tough year for them at senior level. So you'd hope that there is that kind of development coming through on a Westmeath level, that they can, you know, compete at intermediate level. But I mean, look at Down and Sligo that have gone down. You know, Down are phenomenal outfit, like really strong players, and they're playing at junior level next year. So it's difficult to stay there as well. And you know, the preparation levels for teams going to go into the 3 components of the championship, and that's why the provincials are really, really important at intermediate level, because Down and Sligo didn't get a chance to defend themselves in a relegation playoff because they, you know, the 2 provincial winners in Kildare and Leitrim had actually, you know, had obviously won the provincials. There was no championship playoff. So you see them gone down to junior level. So you know, in 2 years you could end up kind of at junior level and needing to work your way back up. But that intermediate championship is so competitive. It is really, really competitive, and probably any team out of 6 of them on any given day could win an All-Ireland final. But it is getting over the line, and it's a big hump to try and get over that line.
Absolutely. We'll turn back to Croke Park on Saturday, and back to Nadine and Michelle. I'll ask you to go on the opposite side of the fence, Nadine, on this one. So take a look at Mayo and Kerry, and what are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, well, obviously surprised both of them are there. To be honest, I really didn't see Mayo getting over the line against Cork, but they were brilliant. Credit to them. I remember us talking about them in the league, actually. They were playing some really lovely football, and Michael Moyes had kind of committed to that open, kicking, lovely style of play that we really enjoy watching. And I had great hopes for them in the championship, because we would have felt at the time that they would have, got their AFLW players back, who, let's be honest, are probably 5 of their most important players over the last couple of years. They didn't get them back, and their form dipped a little bit. While they were winning in the group, they just weren't convincing. And I'm absolutely thrilled for them. I genuinely am, because they've come through a huge amount of hardship this year. He has blooded so many new players. I think back in the league, between the first 3 games in the league, I think he'd given like 12 girls a debut. So fair play to Mayo, really fair play to them. And they deserved it. Like, they were far hungrier against Cork. And I think when you pair them up against Kerry, like, both teams favour that open football that we've spoken about. Kerry, they've been consistent all year. They've kind of come under the radar, and I suppose I wasn't giving them full credit because they were playing in Division 2. They weren't playing in Division 1. So you were kind of thinking, come championship, they might struggle. They haven't. Caoimhe had mentioned last week about how their hunger and possible anger at, Armagh's antics the week before might have driven them on. I think it did. And we've spoken about Kerry around the middle. That's where their real strength is. Like, they have wonderful physical in a sense of, like, they have that physical strength, and pure footballers. And then you add Louise, obviously. Listen, she's one of the best corner forwards in the country, has been for a number of years. She's also played in the half forward line. She's so dynamic. You have her now. You have Danielle O'Leary. You have Kaylee Cronin. I think matchups are going to be key in this game. Like, who's going to mark Louise Noor Hurtig? Like, that's the big question. Perhaps Diane Caldwell should give it a go. Danielle O'Leary, then who's left to pick her up? The Caffergys, you have Koch Lynch there and Aisling O'Connell. They could be interesting matchups. Will Kaylee Cronin pick up Shauna Howley? I'd love to see that. And then Fiona McHale, who has probably been their most consistent player all season and their leader. Who will she pick up? Will she be forced out further to the middle on Anna Galvin? Who knows with all of these things, but what I do think is going to happen, it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be really, really wide open. It's going to be really entertaining. Mayo, I suppose, have more experience in Croke Park, Jackie, like over the last couple of years. They made that, was it the semi-final against Dublin?
They were semi-finalists last year,
yeah. And were, I suppose, beaten quite easily by Dublin, but we're looking at a totally different Mayo team. I'm going to tip Kerry ever so slightly. Like, I just think they have that little bit more up front. They've also played in Croke Park this year against Armagh and were very comfortable, looked very much at home. And yeah, I think they might just sneak it. And I'm not covering bases because of my awful predictions last weekend, but like Mayo could easily sneak it by a couple of points as well. But what I do think, it's going to be a lot more open than the second game. Like, it isn't going to be as cagey. We're going to see a lot more football. We're going to see wide open spaces, and I'll definitely be going in for 2:00. I'll be leaving juries early for that one for sure.
For sure, absolutely. Michelle, if there was an emoji for an evil cackle in the WhatsApp group this week, I'd say your face might be on it, to be honest. So I'm going to throw the ball in and ask you to take a look at Donegal and Meath briefly, Michelle, and your thoughts on this one.
This innocent face, Jackie. Nadine is dead right. This is going to be the cagier of the two matches, and I suppose, look, first of all, regards to Donegal, I mean, ever since I saw Donegal play Dublin in the 2020 championship up in Breffni Park in, I think it was the end of October, and that fluke or freak goal that went in that night, it was a fluke.
It was on Halloween night as well. It was a spooky one, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, right? Ever since that performance against Dublin, I have been like a broken record going around saying that Donegal have had the potential to beat Dublin, like Nadine was saying earlier. So much so that people have been telling me to drop it over the last while. That's why, going into this match, and I'm thrilled that they gave the performance that they did against Dublin, and they're now in this position because Nadine is right. Meath will suit Dublin as regards opposition and the toughness and the challenge that it poses, and the quality of the players. But the only thing I would worry about for Donegal is that Meath have a fairly substantial defensive system, where the numbers get back. And I've seen again in the Waterford match at Donegal how much Donegal struggled with that when there were numbers in front of them. Now, the only thing is Donegal have the potential to break that down because they have fierce speed. They have speed in their legs and they have speed in the movement of the ball. And all it takes is moving that ball as quick as you can to break through that crowd, to not allow that crowd set up in front of them. And then you have the incredible triangle, which is Geraldine McLaughlin, Karen Guthrie, and Yvonne Bonner, and they do operate in a triangle. One of them will operate out around the midfield, around the 45, two of them inside, and they'll keep alternating who is in those positions. And they will do damage, and they have done damage. So if they can, move that ball quick to avoid getting slowed down by that Meath defensive unit, they will do damage. Now, Monica McGurk could have a crucial role here, considering, I suppose, the goal-getting potential that exists in Donegal. And looking at Meath over the last few games, to be honest, they haven't had that same spark, or they haven't been allowed, I suppose, to thrive as much as maybe last year, because they don't have the element of surprise this year. People are, after having the winter, to look at their system and to combat their system and to really go at them and figure out their weaknesses. But at the same time, like, Armagh really put it up to them, but Armagh didn't get the win that day. And Galway really put it up to them last week, and Galway didn't get the win that day. So to me, I just have a feeling that when it comes to the wire, and I do think this will be a humdinger right up until the very end, but maybe that grit that Meath have to see out a game in the end, and the fact that they can turn to match-winning scorers who have the absolute confidence to step up no matter what, could see them over the line. But look, I think it'll be an absolute cracker with regards to there will be nothing between it. I don't think it'll be a wide open game, as Nadine has said. I think it'll be a little bit cagier, but Donegal definitely have the potential to unlock Meath, there's no doubt.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to go around the house very shortly, just to wrap it up very briefly by giving me your All-Ireland final, senior finalist predictions, right? But before that, and Caoimhe, I'll start with you for that prediction piece, but I also want to ask you, and it's something that Nadine touched on there with the Mayo camp not having the AFLW contingent. And I spoke to an inter-county player recently who is part of a panel that has lost some players to AFLW. But I think there's a counter argument in that it helps to galvanise. And you talk about the players that Fermanagh lost from last year to this. That what choice do you have? You just have to kick on anyway, and perhaps it allows other players to come to the fore that might not necessarily have got that opportunity. Now, I absolutely agree with Nadine that some of the players that Mayo are without are top quality players, absolute top quality players, Sarah Rowe, the Kellys, etc. But is there some merit in that? They're gone, but we're here, and can a group become even more united in a sense? Do you think?
Yeah, well, look, I've seen this in Fermanagh, although they've not gone to AFLW, maybe Joanne Doonan, but it's an honour to play for your county. We know that, and players sometimes do be united over the fact that maybe girls have walked away, or the fact that maybe they just don't have those people anymore. Like, these things can happen due to injury as well. We lost Amy Mackin in 2019, and you have to go on. You have to use resilience and get through it. And yes, sometimes it can mean a more united outfit. That people work together so much more and they bond a lot better. And like, whatever works for a county, and like, a lot of it's down to management as well, and how they perceive the situation, and how they either don't address it and move on, or do address it and put it to bed, or whatever the case may be. We just moved on in Fermanagh because you have to, and there are girls there that want to play for their county, and that's the most important thing, and you can work with anybody that just wants to give up their best for their county squad. And yeah, look, it's great that the girls are getting some of the opportunities to go to the AFLW, but at the end of the day, there'll be people there to take their place in county. And I've always heard that the county will always continue on, whether you're there or whether you're not. So never think that you're irreplaceable. And look, we all know how important it is to be there for your county, and there'll always be a place probably if they come back as well. And like, the door's always open for lots of people, and you never say never, but yeah, I agree totally on what you're saying there. Sometimes it can unify a squad, and it can be maybe the best thing that can happen to a squad. Yeah,
it's a double-edged sword, of course, too, Caoimhe, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You're without quality players, but at the same time, all of the points you've raised there are entirely valid. Caoimhe, right, so very briefly, 2 words, X and Y, who's going to contest this final, senior?
Kerry, Donegal.
Right. Okay, Emma.
Kerry Donegal.
And you went for Kerry last weekend, in fairness,
Yeah, it's the only one I got right last weekend.
Do you know what I was doing in the car on the way home? I was busy saying, "Oh my God, please let Laois win because I backed them. Please let this one win. I've only got me. I've lost my job."
No, we're absolutely delighted to have you back, Kiva. Absolutely. Nadine?
I think we might see extra time in both or one of the games, but I'm on the green and gold bandwagon as well. Kerry Donegal.
Okay, have we a full house, Michelle? I think you're going Mead, aren't you?
I am actually going to go Kerry Meath.
Right. Mayo would be delighted, lads. That's all I'd say.
Well, they will be delighted, yeah, because we get none of the calls, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've 3 for Kerry Donegal and 1 for Kerry Meath. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, folks. Michelle, before we finish up, any tips for today? Or are you just going along to sample the atmosphere? Looking forward to
I
it.
don't know
Nice
what
day
you're
out, Michelle.
talking about, Jackie. I always look like this on the podcast.
And you're just back from your holidays
she
as
was
well,
getting-
so you're having the
I
right
thought she
variety at the
was-
moment, Michelle.
I thought she was getting all dressed up for us. I was feeling the pressure now for next week then.
Yeah.
I didn't know makeup artist was an optional thing.
No.
Jack. We send some this way.
Michelle,
We'll send them to you next time, Caoimhe.
and we'll leave you alone now, Michelle. Enjoy your day out, and hope you had a nice family holiday away as well. So yeah, so we've 2 more weekends left. We've Saturday coming up, TG4 All-Ireland Senior semi-finals, Mayo Kerry 2 o'clock, Donegal-Meath 4 o'clock at Croke Park, and then we're off to Croke Park again on the 31st of July for the 3 finals. So we'll be back again real soon, but my guest today, Caoimhe Marley Morgan from Armagh, Dublin's councillor Emma Murphy, Nadine Doherty from Donegal, and of course Michelle Ryan, former Waterford. Great. Thanks, folks, and we'll chat again real soon.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.